Hi, I'm Gareth Green and welcome to this video, Cool Extended Chord Progressions, episode 6, which means of course that there are 5 previous episodes out there for you and there are 2 more to come. So this is in our series of 8. All we're doing here is kind of taking chords that many people will know and love, and we're saying if you extend these chords by adding 7ths, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths, well, does that give you more options? Does it help you to extend your palette of chords that could be really liberating for you in whichever style you're working? And we've had a different kind of focus in each of these videos. Well, what am I doing in this one? I'm really talking about 5-1 progressions. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I'm in the key of C, here's the scale of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1. So 5, 1. So going from the 5th note of the scale to the 1st note of the scale, the dominant to the tonic. But what happens if we build chords on those things? So we have a chord 5, G, B, D in the case of C major, to chord 1, C, E, G. These are things that you may well have been doing all your life if you're into this at all. So going 5-1 is something that musicians of all genres will have been doing forever. But what about if you put your 5-1s back to back? So here I'm going 5-1 in F major, and then I'm immediately going 5-1 in G major. But, you know, can I do that? Can I go 5-1 in one key and then immediately go 5-1 in another key? Absolutely. Why not? And can I get into it from somewhere? Well, you know, here's the chord that is the odd one out, if you like, because we're going 5-1, 5-1. This is a random chord, if you like. Except maybe it's not so random, because if you were thinking in the key of F major, you would be thinking about this as chord 2-7, and then a 5-7, and then a 1-7. So the progression 2-5-1 is a very common progression, again used in music of lots of different genres. So all you got to do is to take 2-5-1 and extend the chord a bit. In this case, we're just keeping a simple extension of adding 7ths. So I've got this 2-5-1 in F major, then I'm going 5-1 in G major. Okay, what does this progression sound like? Depends how you organize the notes above the bass, but it sounds like this. Okay, now you might think that's not quite as cool as some of the other progressions we've done. Doesn't matter. You know, there's different levels of coolness. Okay, but if I was just going 2-5-1 in F major, I might be going 2-5-1, sort of thing that a composer like Bach does in his chorales. It's a kind of cadence you hear a lot in a Bach chorale. But I could make this sound very kind of jazzy by doing something totally different. Do you see? Suddenly doesn't sound like a Bach chorale at all. So 2-5-1 in F major, and then, okay, let's go 5-1 in G major. Now, this is all out of context, so you might say, well, yeah, it depends where it goes next, doesn't it? Because, of course, you can go 5-1 in a different key. It's kind of something we call a secondary dominant, except it's kind of not quite fully a secondary dominant because this D7 chord doesn't kind of belong to F major, so it's a slightly funny one. Neither does this G7, more to the point, because really what you're trying to do is to go 5-1, where 1 is a chord in the prevailing key. Well, a G7's got a B natural. If you had a G minor 7, it would have a B flat in it, and therefore you could use that to go back to F. So I could go G minor 7, C7, F7, then I could go D7, G minor 7, and then back to F. So we could do it as a secondary dominant, but you don't have to. You could say, I'll just use that G7 with a B natural and just use it as a separate colour. Or you could say, well, I'm going to use that G7 as a dominant chord to a C chord and then go somewhere else. it opens up possibilities for modulation, key exploration. And some of these kind of extended chord progressions we've been talking about have not been key specific. Some of them have been, oh yes, here's a progression in a particular key. Here's one that you could think, well, am I in F major, sort of doubling with a bit of G major and then maybe coming back to F major? Or am I sort of in F major, just kind of almost ramming it into G major and then going somewhere else? Or that G7 suggesting we're going on to C major, for example? You know, it's a little bit less clear as to where that's going, but I've done that on purpose so you can think, you know, have I got permission to do that kind of thing, you know? Because a lot of people who learn the rules of harmony then find it very difficult to break the rules. I still think it's worth knowing the rules because they often throw up good advice, whichever style you're working in. But then it's kind of being brave enough to break them, know why you're breaking them. And at the end of the day, if you break those rules, does it sound good? Because if it sounds good, what the heck? We talked about false relations in an earlier video. Well, here's one here. F natural on the bass there, F sharp up there. So is that something your ear is sensitive to? Hearing an F natural, hearing an F sharp in a different octave, you know. Well, you may be sensitive to that or it may not worry you in the slightest. That's the point. You've got to do what works for you. But anyway, you get the idea that all we're doing here is extending to sevenths and getting a progression out of it. And then just inviting you to doodle around. Wherever it's going to go next. It's quite easy just to do that little bit of decoration in the melody, just being brave enough to think, can I go up a note and come back? Can I go down a note and come back? That's auxiliary notes or neighbour tones. Can I just pass up by step or pass down by step? So passing notes, passing tones. Or do I just want to doodle around harmony notes or chord tones? Just using harmony notes and chord tones? Or do you want to do a bit of both? You know, there are lots of possibilities. Or am I trying to get some movement in my bass part? Do something like that, you know, fine. Straight rhythms, swing rhythms, whatever you want to do. Get a bit of rhythm into it, punch out the chords. Experiment, as we've mentioned before, with different volume, different tempo, see where it gets you. Can you extend this into more chord progressions of this kind of ilk? Or what happens if you take these chords and extend them up to 9th chords or 11th chords or 13th chords or something? Does that bring you more or does it bring you too much? You can decide, and it will all depend on kind of what you do with it. Are you happy with the voicing of these chords, the spacing of the notes, or would you prefer to tiddle around with that and do something different with it? Great, absolutely. You can even put some of these chord progressions we're talking about on a loop and do different things every time you go around the loop. So the possibilities are endless. But my advice is get your fingers on the keyboard if you're a keyboard player, or on the guitar if you're a guitarist, or just record these chords and then see if you can jam along with your melodic instrument, just to get a feel for what's going on in the harmony, build up your improvisation skills, build up your composition skills, and primarily, whatever you're doing to expand your imagination with the use of extended chords. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, let me invite you on a journey to a very exciting website, www.mmcourses.co.uk. Lots of courses there. If you're interested in kind of thinking, yeah, actually, I want to develop my skills as a composer, maybe I'm not very confident as a composer, maybe not done too much of this before, have a look at our composition course, which basically takes you through the essentials of, well, writing melodies, thinking about rhythm. What do we do when we're writing chords? What about the voicing, the spacing of notes in textures? What about structures? You know, all these kind of things that you need to think about when you're composing. So if you want some help with composing, then that course would be an ideal thing for you to have a look at. If you're wanting something that's kind of a bit more out there, you might want to have a look at our 12-tone composition course, where we're really going atonal and examining the method that was developed by the Second Viennese School, people like Schoenberg, Berg and Webern, getting away from tonality altogether and organising all the 12 semitones or half steps of the octave in a particular order, and then doing various permutations of that to generate a piece of music. It generates a whole new way of thinking about things, even if you don't want to be a 12-tone composer. Gets you in touch with dissonance, atonal music, what you want to do. So if you want to kind of extend yourself in that direction, that would be a good course for you to look out there. Anyway, those are just two of a load of courses on lots of different things that you might find really helpful. www.mmcourses.co.uk